Let's talk to Liam Duffy, counter-extremism expert. Liam, very good morning to you.
Good morning.
Thanks very much for joining us. Watching the events of the new year over in America, it struck me that, you know, they're now having to deal with what we've been dealing with here in the UK and in mainland Europe for quite a while, and that is sort of homegrown terrorism dressed up as Islam.
Yeah, I think I was going to say you're exactly right in your remarks. I think maybe there's been a little bit of complacency in the US, thinking that kind of the jihadist threat is over, like, you know, the threat picture has moved on. But yeah, exactly as you say, this is a reminder that actually it hasn't, and it has still, whether it's kind of the old guard of Al-Qaeda who are kind of more loyal to bin Laden and want to attack the US for those reasons, or as looks possible in the case of New Orleans, there's kind of this cast of like outcast misfits and losers that ISIS is still actually able to inspire domestically. So there's kind of the two different elements of the threat there, but it still is a threat.
Yeah, and is that? I mean, I've been speaking to a couple of our contacts who know the Syrian situation quite well, and there's still an awful lot of camps there which are still holding an awful lot of people who were in ISIS. I mean, I know that many people believe that ISIS is no longer a threat, but it kind of is, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. Look, I think what a big mistake people make is to attach the fortunes of the global jihadist movement too much to one group. Like, the jihadist movement was around a lot longer than, like, before ISIS's territorial caliphate was around, and it'll be around after that. And exactly as you point out, there are a lot of jihadists either in prison in European countries or kind of languishing in camps or makeshift prisons in the Middle East. You know, they're not going anywhere. And I think the big mistake is, and I just said this, that there is a kind of capacity to inspire misfits and losers. The mistake is to think that that is all that is left of the movement, when actually, exactly as you point out, there is actually that kind of hardened jihadists are still alive in many cases, and what they do next and what the future holds for them is going to be a big question for Europe and the US.
Yeah, so I mean, would you say that there could be an awful lot more of these people like the New Orleans perpetrator in America, do you think?
Oh, without doubt. I think the FBI is investigating several hundred ISIS-related cases. I think I saw some research from a researcher called Aaron Zellin that said there have been over a dozen ISIS-related arrests in the US in the last year, which is small compared to some Western European countries, which has borne the brunt of the kind of jihadist ISIS threat. But it's still significant, and it is, as you said in the introduction, it's just a reminder that it's not gone anywhere.
No, and I mean, it's been relatively quiet, thankfully, here. I mean, we've obviously seen some attacks in Germany. We've seen other attacks in other parts of Europe, but the UK has been, supposedly anyway, relatively calm. But is that more by luck than judgment, do you think?
A bit of luck, a bit of judgment. I think, you know, our counter-terrorism infrastructure is doing a pretty good job. They're disrupting a lot of late stage plots. So, yeah, I don't. The successful attacks are really just the tip of the iceberg. That's the bit that we see, right? Yeah. There's all sorts of plots, fundraising, propagandizing that goes on that, you know, still terrorism offences still indicate support for ISIS or, as I said, the global jihadist movement writ large. So, yeah, just because we're not seeing many attacks doesn't mean that the threat isn't there or there aren't jihadist supporters either in prison.
Yeah, whenever I talk to security people here, they always say that actually there's an awful lot going on beneath the surface, an awful lot of plots get foiled all the time.
Yeah, for sure. And look, as I said, there are a lot of the kind of wave that got convicted around the 2000s, 2010s are in prison and are coming out, right? Those guys are the more kind of hardened jihadists, the more committed jihadist ideologues than the misfits and losers that we're seeing able to be as inspired. So what they do next is going to be a massive question.
Now, what do you make of the incident in Las Vegas? The FBI say they don't believe it was related to what happened in New Orleans. It seems to be that guy was more of a kind of anti-Trumper than anything else.
Yeah, look, I think it's way too early to tell on that one, but I mean, we say, you know, don't believe in coincidences. It's outside Trump Hotel. It's in a cybertruck. You know, it does seem a little bit too good to be true, or in terms of not being politically motivated.
Yeah, exactly right. But you're satisfied that the two are not connected, though?
Yeah, I don't think so. Look, they're both high visible, high profile targets where there's a lot of people. It's New Year's Day. If you are kind of a politically motivated person or somebody with a specific grievance that wants to commit some sort of violent act, you know, the US is a big place, and there are going to be lots of those kind of targets around New Year's. So,
and you can't protect everything all the time, can you? That's the problem.
No, of course not, and especially not when it is these kind of lower tech attacks, like a car ramming attack, and when it is an individual acting alone, those are the ones that security services really struggle with, as opposed to, when there's a group, there's a cell communicating. Any type of communication is a chance to be intercepted, right? So, yeah, they're much harder to detect. Sorry.
Sure. Liam, good to talk to you. Thanks very much indeed. Liam Duffy, counter-terrorism expert there.